Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. Today I'm honored to have one of the great contributors to ham radio, Tim Duffy, K3LR. Tim has literally touched thousands of ham radio operators around the world through a variety of different ways. First of all, he's the CEO of DX Engineering, the ubiquitous radio supplier that I'm sure all of us have a sticker somewhere that says DX Engineering on some of our gear or in our homes. He also has one of the best world-class multi stations in the world in West Middlesex, Pennsylvania. He's an avid contester. I just can't tell you how many different accolades there are for Tim. And again, I'm honored to have him with me today. Thank you for joining me, Tim.
It's great to be here, Kevin.
Well, I appreciate you dealing with the technical difficulties. I think that sometimes that's relegated to ham radio, but apparently is breathing over into my my podcasting world. So thank you for your patience.
Now, everything worked out fine. That's part of the technology deal. So no problem at all, Kevin.
So there's so many different things that I want to talk to you about, whether it be your contest station or DX engineering, but I think I'm going to wait for a different day for those. What most interests me today is the WRTC, the World Radiosport Team Championship, which is just around the corner. It's in early July, I believe, maybe July 8th or 9th. You probably know exactly, Tim. I know you've been a competitor there. I think you're actually going over there to maybe be a referee or you're involved in some way. I want to learn more about WRTC. As many people know, I'm new to the hobby. I just came back in a year ago, and this championship keeps coming up. I think it's viewed as being the Olympics of ham radio. I talked to K5ZD the other day, and I think he's on his way there. So would you tell us a little bit about WRTC and where did this all get started, Tim?
You know, WRTC is a really fascinating part of the amateur radio hobby, and it was first held in 1990 in Seattle, Washington. It got off to a great start there, and the first winners of WRTC were John Doerr, K1AR, and Doug Grant, K1DG. And it's a very compact contest. In the case that it runs on top of the IARU Radiosport Championship, which is a great event that is held in the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. But WRTC brings together contest operators from all over the world. And so this year it will be in Italy, and we're very excited about that. And I will be going as an observer, and that really is new. My first WRTC was in 1996, where I operated with Pat N9RV, and we had a great time. The 1996 hosts, K3EST and W6OAT, did a great job of putting that together. But WRTC has evolved, and I was last a competitor in Germany in 2018, and my partner was DL1QQ, and we did great. We were in the mid-20s. We finished, and we had a super time. But it is one of the Olympic sports. I think some of the folks that are involved in fox hunting might say that they are the Olympics, but this is just one of many, many facets of amateur radio that is really good, and we're very excited to go to Italy.
Whose brainchild was this, Tim? How did it actually get started?
The brainchild was really some guys on the West Coast that said, "Hey, we can get a number of people together and see who's the best of the best." So I don't think it was any one person, Kevin. It was a group of people, and I don't want to leave anybody out. But there is a very stringent steering committee, that makes sure that WRTC adheres to all of the initial principles and make sure that the WRTC goes off as planned. DX Engineering, the company I work for, will be one of the sponsors in Italy. We've been a sponsor in many WRTCs and are a very staunch supporter. So we're looking forward to the competition here in a few weeks.
So I took some time last night to go over the rules again, line by line, and I've got to say that they're very thorough, and clearly whoever put these together, and it probably was a group of people over time, they've really tried to build something that's fair and that keeps each one of these stations kind of on even footing. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What some of the rules are for these teams?
You know, the equal footing is a great part of this. The idea is to have stations that are essentially the same. And when we mean that, 100 watts, the same antennas, and in a geographic location that doesn't have any advantage over the others. That's really a critical piece, is to make sure that every station is the same, so that it comes down to the two operators, the team, that and how they interact as a team becomes, and their operating skill becomes the factor in how they will finish. So it tries to make everybody as equal as possible.
So I don't want to assume that anybody knows anything about WRTC. I believe that the host club, the host country, actually scouts different locations that are relatively equal, and then they provide basics like a tent, power, the antenna that you just mentioned, a short tower. Tell me more about that. What are the basics that are provided, and how do they actually determine what those locations are, and in what kind of overall radius are they located in?
And that's a great question, because for this WRTC, there's been another challenge. In Italy, they've had extensive flooding in the area where the stations were to be located. So that has caused an additional challenge. But yes, having the same tri-band antenna for 20, 15, and 10 meters, the same wire antennas for 40 and 80 meters, and making sure that nobody has an advantage when it comes to the antenna systems. And then what is provided to the operators, the teams, will be, a tent and a generator power. So it's like field day, but it is very defined. So these field locations will have everything should be the same, so that it comes down to the operators as to who will finish first.
So once that station then is determined, or the location is determined, then it is up to the team leader, to decide what equipment they're going to bring from their home QTH, correct?
That is correct. The equipment, the radios can be whatever those operators for that team are comfortable with, and whatever they have. So they have to bring their own radios, and there is a careful monitoring system that is part of the WRTC kit that ensures that the team will not operate with more than 100 watts. That's a very important part to this, is that they have to pay attention to the rules, and that no more than 100 watts. And so and the team has to make a decision whether it's CW or SSB is the best for that given time during the contest. So but you're going to see radios from ICOM, Yaesu, Kenwood, Elcraft, and probably some other vendors as well.
So I think we need to move backwards a bit. I've been talking about team leaders. My understanding is the team leaders qualify to go to the WRTC through a number of different participations. I believe they have possibly 24 different opportunities 12 of those are chosen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, with any of this, and then there's a cumulative score that allows them to qualify. Is that basically right, and what can you add to that?
Yeah, there is a qualifying period. It was over a series of years. These particular games, the WRTC that is occurring this year in 2023, was to be held in 2022, but because of a number of reasons, COVID and so forth, it got pushed back. But there were qualifying events in the major contests over a series of years to ensure that the people and the operators that are part of WRTC are the best of the best. And so it's going to be very exciting to see how this all comes together, and these operators that have spent years qualifying. And also the youth part of this too, Kevin, is really important.
Well, so tell me about that. What is the youth component?
There has been here for the last several WRTCs a real focus on getting younger operators involved. And back in Germany in 2018, I was very proud that one of the K3LR operators, KG5HVO, Bryant Rascal, was given the opportunity to participate and compete. So there is a focus on getting younger operators involved in WRTC, and that's our future. So, and I think you're going to see that as WRTCs go on in the future. You're going to see a focus on young operators.
So do the young operators, I just want to be clear on this, do they operate in a separate category?
No, they're right in the fray. They're right there. There is a special mention because they are younger and they qualified as a youth team, but it's time to belly up. And some of these young operators just do a really, really good job. So it is very exciting to see how they will place.
So back to the teams again. The team leaders qualify. Do their teammates also go through a qualification process?
The idea is to assemble a team that is competitive. So, the team leaders, there are qualifications for the teammate of the team as well. Previous WRTC finishes, etc. So this is a really good program and qualification to make sure that it is the best of the best.
One of the things that I noticed in reading through the rules, it appears to me that everybody is required to do real-time score uploads.
Yes.
So is there a sense that people like myself will be watching those scores, even if I'm not actually in the contest, that there will be hams around the world that will be paying attention to people like Randy Thompson to see how he's doing?
Oh yeah, no, that is a very key part of this whole thing is the live scoreboard, so that you and me and everybody around the world can see how those teams are doing as the contest progresses. So the live scoreboard is a very integral part of WRTC.
So tell me the truth. You going as an observer, are you going to be itching to be behind one of those pieces of equipment?
Well, a little bit. Certainly, having operated in 5 WRTCs, I was in San Francisco, operated in Brazil, operated in Finland, operated with N2NT in Moscow. That is always there. That's the competitive spirit. But I'm going to be, cheering on those teams that are really putting together their stations and really operating at the highest level. It's just going to be exciting.
So Tim, if you would share with us maybe one of your personal experiences. You've been there 5 times. I'm sure you've seen some great success and also had to do the usual problem solving that's involved with ham radio. Tell us a little bit about one of those experiences.
So That's a great question, Kevin. When Sandy DL1QQ and I were in Germany uh, in 2018, which was the last WRTC, uh, we had installed the station and turned everything on, and there was a nasty RFI interference problem, and it was a tick, 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 just on all the bands. You could see this interference, and it sounded like it was, uh, a fencer, one of the electric fences, just doing the charging, and it was S9, which was a real problem. And so we asked, we had some station hosts there, and we said, geez, do you guys know if there's any fences in the area? And they came back. They were actually very radio smart guys. They came back and said, no, it was a ferret shocker. And it turns out that in Germany, ferrets can get into the into cars, into the engine area, and can cause havoc in the engine area. So they have these ferret shockers. They turned off the ferret shocker, and the interference went away.
I love that story because there's always the troubleshooting list, right? We went through it before we got on air today, but you go through the troubleshooting list. You don't expect to find ferret shocker. Check that.
Right. But, we had a really good plan in Germany, and it was the best station that I've put together. We used two ICOM 7610s, and they worked very well. We had a great time. We thought we finished right at the top of the heap, but there's so many. It's really an all-star group of people that are involved in WRTC. So finishing at the top is very hard to do. It takes, everything has to go your way, and it takes a lot of skill.
So Tim, how does the decision making happen while you're on air? You're obviously working with this teammate. You can't be on the same band at the same time. Are you purposely telling each other where to be? Is it more instinctive? How does that look?
Well, in a lot of cases, and we did this in Germany, the years leading up to the competition, I actually operated, in Europe to make sure that I understood the propagation, when the bands were open, and that we had a plan of which bands to be on at what times. And so in Italy, several of these teams have operated from Italy in 2022 and 2021, getting ready for this. So they have put together a pretty good plan to figure out where to be when.
So I've got to ask, since this is a competition and it's likened to the Olympics of ham radio, are there standouts that people are watching more closely?
I wouldn't say that. You never know who's going to finish at the top. There, these the teams that have been assembled at WRTC here in Italy in a few weeks here are really the best of the best. The best contest operators. And what makes you the best? Well, you're efficient. You're able to speak fast. You're able to figure out what bands to be on. Your CW skills have to be very good, and that you have done many, many contests leading up to it. So that, and you've scored high, and that is what qualified you to become a part of this. And it goes without saying that any team can really be number one. It just depends upon how all those variables come together, and that's what makes it so exciting. You just don't know what you're going to get.
And Tim, is there a conclusive winner at the end of the weekend? I know there's a referee that's assigned to every team, and there is some sort of log checking process. But is there a conclusive winner before you get on a plane to come back home?
Oh yes, absolutely. There is a there is a conclusive team winner. And, the log checking process is very thorough. I know that N6TR Tree, who has decades of experience in log checking, is part of that team. And the referee has a very tough job to do. He's got to listen to two people having the time of their life in in this contest, and he's not able to make any contacts. So he has to stay awake and make sure that everything is done on the up and up. But at the end, with the closing ceremonies, there definitely will be the gold, the silver, and the bronze medals, just like the Olympics, and it will be very definitive.
And Tim, as an observer, are you able to visit each one of these locations, or do they recommend people stay away?
I don't know what the visitation policy will be in Italy. I know in Germany it was that, there were no visitors allowed. And so, but it may be different in Italy. My hope is that I will get a chance to participate by going to an Italian station and getting on the air for a few hours and having some fun working the WRTC stations.
So since I was vague when we started when this actually is, could you give me the exact dates for the WRTC?
The calendar says the WRTC is going to start on July 8th at 1200 Zulu, and it will finish on July 9th at 1200 Zulu. So that's 24 hours.
It's all very exciting, and I'm looking forward to, if not at least participating that weekend in the IARU, at least watching online Scoreboard to see how everybody's doing.
It's going to be exciting, Kevin. It will be well worth it. And, I want to encourage everybody that is listening to this and watching this podcast that you get on the air and work as many stations as you hear. It not only the WRTC stations, which will have very distinctive call signs, but all the stations, and it goes for all the contests. Get on the air and have some fun.
Well, Tim, thank you for taking your time today. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. I thought that I had picked up enough when I went online last night to do some reading, but you've really fleshed that out for me, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man.
Kevin, thanks so much for having me on. And thanks for all you do to support our sport of contesting in amateur radio. And I look forward to the future.
I've been talking to Tim Duffy, K3LR. You can go to his QRZ page. It's pretty long. Take some, get a cup of coffee before you sit down because there's a lot to read about there. And if you still want to learn more, go to 3830 Scores. There's a lot of information about his contest activity. Thanks again, Tim. Have a good day.
All right, 73, Kevin.